Welcome back to the final reading of The Drooling Path by Kothar Darastrix. Today we'll be finishing with The Drooling Path Epilogue. Now without further ado, The Drooling Path Epilogue. It had happened. Finally, after a blizzard of paperwork, a long quiet plane ride, and a dizzying orientation, James was walking the halls of Site 17. Though wandering might have been a more appropriate word. Site 17 was much bigger than James had expected. There weren't nearly enough directories, and the ones that did exist seemed to contradict each other. Either that, or the newly christened SCP-2432 had messed up James's brain more than he'd initially suspected. He was standing in front of one of those confusing directories when someone finally noticed his distress and took pity on him. "Hey, you need some help?" "Huh?" James asked, whirling around to face the speaker, a security guard who was now approaching. He had his visor up, revealing the face of a man a little younger than James himself. He was taller, though, buff, too. "Do you need help?" he repeated. "You look lost." "Oh, James said, with mixed embarrassment and gratitude. "Yeah, I'm trying to get to the chemistry lab 102B. The guard nodded. "All right, you'll need to..." He closed his eyes to think for a moment, then started pointing. "Go that way, turn left at the end of the hallway, make a right at the first intersection, go down the stairs, make another right, go around the next two corridors." Then he trailed off because he noticed the blank look on James's face. Why don't I just show you?" "Thank you," he said, smiling in relief. "No problem." Then he set off down the hall, following the directions he'd been reciting. James had to speed up a little bit to catch with his guide's longer legs. "I guess you're new then?" the guard asked. Yeah, to this side anyway." "Where were you before?" 14, James said, with as much contempt as he could muster. "Ouch. What do you do to deserve that?" "Beats me, something in a past life, I guess." They both chuckled, a little awkwardly. The smile that followed after was even more awkward. "So," James interjected, a bit louder than he'd meant to, how long have you been working here?" It was drawing on James that he'd never actually had a real conversation with any of the security officers at Area 14. "A couple years." "Do you like it?" The guard shrugged. "I guess. Not a huge fan of the security gig, but it's... hey, Iris." "Hey," replied a young blonde woman, heading the other direction. James didn't notice the SCP-105 across the back of her gray jumpsuit until she had already passed them. "Shit, that's a..." "It's okay," the guard said, putting a hand on James's shoulder. "She's cleared. Didn't they tell you that at orientation?" Feeling foolish, James relaxed. They had told him, and he was pretty sure he'd even caught a glimpse of SCP-073, who he'd heard was the biblical Cain, though he didn't buy it on his way in. He still wasn't used to the idea of letting anomalies wander around the site, though, mostly because he still wasn't used to the idea of anomalies that weren't Class 4 biohazards. "Sorry, just coming from 14. "Yeah, I know. Most transfers take a while to adjust, but take it from me. You're safe." James looked into the guard's strong, smiling face for a little longer than was probably comfortable, until the guard noticed his hand was on James's shoulder, and they broke both physical and eye contact as quickly as they could. The guard cleared his throat and resumed walking. "So, as I was saying, the security gig isn't too bad. We don't have accidents here very often." "Oh, thank God," James agreed. The violent containment breaches were, of course, the thing he'd missed the least about ABCA-14. "I'm hoping to join a task force, though, next recruitment cycle." "Really?" "Yeah, just village idiots or something, not one of the big ones like New 7. I guess you knew all about them, huh?" "I know they make a lot of noise when people are trying to sleep." The guard laughed. "Yeah, I guess they would. You won't have to deal with that around here either." "It just keeps getting better." "Yeah, you'll love it here. And here we are. The guard gestured at the door to the lab. Oh, James turned to face his guide. Thanks. Then he read the guy's name tag for the first time and immediately had a miniature heart attack. Relax, the guard laughed. He's my dad. Oh, James sighed. Whew, I thought this was an undercover boss thing for a second. Nah, when you meet Dad, you'll know it. I will? James tried to hide his worry, but didn't succeed. He's not as scary as he sounds, the guard promised. James nodded with relief. That's a relief. He heard some pretty crazy stories about Kondraki. He didn't believe any of it, of course, but was still worried about whatever nuggets of truth might underlie the rumors. Anyway, I'm Draven, said Draven, offering a handshake. James, said James, taking it. James Taloran. And that's the end of the Drooling Path. And I love it so much, and I'm going to talk about it for just a quick second because I feel like I have to. But Cathartorastrix has done an absolutely amazing job with this story. From the start, it's given to us that the entire point of the story is what is the connection between 058 and the other SCPs? What is the Drooling Path? What is all of this being put together for? And we get to part 5. We know there's an epilogue, so it might continue. And we get to part 5. And the last thing 058 says is a quote from, I think, the 4th paragraph from the first part. And then as far as you can tell, Conrad dies, or maybe he gets let out somewhere. We don't know. If it's like base IKEA in this, he dies. But it might not be because he has connection with the Drooling Path. So we don't have an answer. We don't have an answer for how they are exactly connected, where they all come from, and why randomness. We don't have an answer for any of that. And that is wonderful for the SCP Wiki because every single one of the articles, the best articles, don't tell you everything. You are left to come up with it on your own. Just explore the world and come up with your own way that it works. And this story, despite being a story with like actual ties with the SCP stuff and what's going on with it and all of that, it doesn't give you the answer. You are still left to make up your own answers. And that is just wonderful. I absolutely enjoyed it. But I'm going to end it here, otherwise I'm going to continue to gush over this wonderful story. Thank you very much for coming, everyone. Also, last thing, I promise. The epilogue. The epilogue has nothing to do with the main story, and it does continue. I believe it continues into Portraits of Your Father, but as far as I can tell, it has absolutely nothing to do with the Drooling Path, and it focuses on Draven. We might read that later. Who knows? But yes, thank you so much for coming, everyone. It has been an honor reading for you. Good luck out there, and I hope to see you all next time. Get something to eat. Get good food.